Let's take a look at a single 24-hour period, April 11th, 2026. Today, we're going to see how things like high-stakes peace talks, missions to space, and brand new cyber threats aren't really separate stories at all. They're all threads in a complex global web, one that shows a world teetering right on the edge. And to really set the stage, just listen to this powerful line from Pope Leo XIV. Now, he was talking about the conflict in West Asia, but this idea, this delusion of omnipotence, it kind of captures the human factor behind all the crises we're about to look at. It's a pretty sobering thought about how pride and ambition can really drive world events. Okay, so the absolute epicenter of all this tension is the standoff between the United States and Iran. After 6 long weeks of war, the entire world is basically holding its breath, waiting to see if diplomacy can stop an even bigger catastrophe. And that takes us right here to Islamabad. You know, this isn't just another diplomatic meeting. People are calling it make or break. What happens in these talks today could either pave the way for a very fragile peace, or it could unleash a much, much wider conflict. So, who's actually at the table? Well, on the American side, you've got a delegation led by Vice President J.D. Vance, and Jared Kushner is there too. They're sitting across from senior Iranian negotiators. And honestly, just seeing these high-level names on both sides tells you everything you need to know about how critical these talks are. But here's the thing. While the diplomats are talking peace, the conflict is actually heating up at sea. The focus is on the Strait of Hormuz, which is, this vital artery for global trade. But right now, it's been turned into a massive strategic choke point. And the tactic they're reportedly using is being called a protection racket. Essentially, Iran is said to be laying naval mines to force commercial ships into its waters and then charging them fees to pass through safely. The U.S. Navy is out there with destroyers trying to clear these mines, which has created this incredibly dangerous cat-and-mouse game on the open water. But a conflict like this is never contained, right? The fallout is already spreading across the whole region, and the consequences are just devastating. And that brings us to this number, 1,953. That's the reported death toll in Lebanon, just since early March. So even with these main ceasefire talks going on, Israeli strikes, which are part of this wider conflict, have continued. This number, it's just the staggering human cost of it all. And then you have this. In stark contrast to that human toll, you get this declaration from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He's claiming the joint U.S.-Israeli military campaign has successfully crushed Iran's weapons programs. It's just a wild disconnect between a claim of strategic victory and the grim reality on the ground. And as if things weren't complicated enough, new intel suggests another world power is getting involved. China is reportedly getting ready to send these advanced, man-portable air defense systems, MANPADS, to help Iran get its defenses back up and running. So the key takeaway here is this isn't just a regional squabble anymore. It's pulling in more and more international players. Now, you might be thinking, okay, this is all happening thousands of miles away, but the economic shockwaves from this are being felt everywhere. Right in our own wallets. Let's break down how. The connection is actually super direct. The war, all the chaos and the Strait of Hormuz, all of that instability sent a huge jolt through the global energy markets. And the result? A really sharp spike in the price of oil, which of course means a spike in the price of the gasoline you put in your car. And higher energy prices, well, they don't just stop at the pump. They ripple out through the entire economy. In March, the U.S. annual inflation rate shot up to 3.3%. And a big driver of that was this energy spike. That means everything from your groceries to everyday services, it's all getting more expensive. And to make that feel even more real, just look at this number. The average price for a brand new car has now hit almost $50,000. That is a direct result of all these inflationary pressures and the supply chain problems that just keep going, all tracing back to that global instability. Okay, so amidst all this conflict and economic chaos, humanity is also pushing into new frontiers. But even here, we find this fascinating story of both unbelievable triumph and brand new threats. Let's start with the triumph, because this is pretty amazing. The return of the 4 Artemis II astronauts. Look at this journey, from that historic launch to a record-breaking trip around the moon, and finally a safe splashdown and a true hero's welcome. It's a moment of pure human achievement, something we all needed. But as we're celebrating this massive victory in the physical frontier of space, a new threat is bubbling up in the digital one. So while the world is cheering for the Artemis crew, emergency meetings are being held over the risks of a new AI model. One frontier represents exploration and hope, the other, a whole new battlefield. And make no mistake, this threat is being taken very seriously. The U.S. Treasury Secretary and the Fed chair actually held emergency meetings with Wall Street CEOs. Why? To talk about the massive cyber risks from Mythos, which is a new AI from a company called Anthropic. The fear is that a tool this powerful could be weaponized to find weaknesses and maybe even disrupt global financial systems on a scale we've never seen before. So as we pull the lens back, it's so clear that these huge events aren't happening in a vacuum. They're all part of a much bigger, much more complicated picture of crises that are all unfolding at the exact same time. And I mean, look at what else was happening on this single day. You've got a measles outbreak putting babies at risk. The war in Ukraine is grinding on, even during a supposed ceasefire. We're already getting hints about the next U.S. presidential election. And in the middle of all of it, life goes on. Rory McIlroy is leading at the Masters. It's a dizzying amount of stuff to take in all at once. Which really brings us to the final question, doesn't it? When you look at this snapshot of one day, April 11th, 2026, you see humanity's best and worst sides on full display, from peace talks and space travel to brutal wars and new digital threats. It really leaves you wondering, in this world of interconnected, cascading crises, which of our tools are going to win out in the end? The ones we build for diplomacy or the ones we design for conflict?